Today, I've got to tell you something that may be hard to hear, and that is that sight loss is not an excuse. Well, except when it is. What's up, VIPs? Derek here, back with another video, and that's right, sight loss is not an excuse, except maybe when it is. Now, what am I talking about? Well, very simply put, we have things that we want to do in life. We may want to go all kinds of different places. We may want to achieve certain goals and dreams, and we may want to just live our lives to the fullest, but we have sight loss. We are visually impaired, and things are going to be so hard and so difficult, and I'm not sure if I can do it, and sight loss is going to stop me. Well, here's the thing. Sight loss, visual impairment, is not an excuse not to try. It's not an excuse not to go out and give your all for the things you want to do. It's not a good enough excuse. There's so much technology and adaptation we can make today that is just not an excuse not to try. Now, when it is an excuse is when you can't actually do things. Like, I want to drive a car, I want to fly a plane, I want to, look at this thing from a long distance away. There's certain things we just can't do. And sure, it's an excuse for that, but it's not an excuse to do the thing you want to do. So if you just recently lost your sight, especially within last year, you might feel like, you know what, I'm never going to do anything again. I can't date, I can't go out on my own, I can't make my own grocery list, I can't do anything. And you might feel like that. But I'm here to tell you, as a person who's been visually impaired for over 20 years, that you can do those things. It's just going to be a challenge, especially at first. Now, you may say, well, Derek, of course I can't do certain things like fly a plane or drive a car. Right, that's the only time you get to use the excuse. In my house, I often try to use that excuse, but my wife certainly does not let me get away with it. And for those of you who have listened to my podcast, you will know that my wife does not let me get away with out of sight, out of mind. And now, let me just say this, that's a real thing. That does happen. If you can't see something, you forget about it. You set your cup down and you don't see it and you just walk away from it. Now, I will say this, that's probably a thing for most people. You just forget about it. But my wife does not let me get away with that. I can't use the excuse of, I'm visually impaired, so I do. It's like, nah, come pick it up. It doesn't matter if you're visually impaired. So we can't use our visual impairment as an excuse to not try. We can't use our visual impairment or sight loss as an excuse to be lazy. We can't use it as an excuse to be less than what we are supposed to be. And that may be different for everybody, but you can find out what it is, and sight loss will not stop you. May it slow you down? Possibly. Maybe. Maybe it might get in your way and put a few more hurdles towards the thing you wanted to do, but it is not going to stop you, and we do not need to use it as an excuse. The only time you're allowed to use it as an excuse is for something that you physically cannot do. And even then, maybe you think it's something you physically can't do. Maybe it's like, well, I can't rock climb, I'm visually impaired. Trust me, you can. In fact, within the first couple of years after losing my sight, I went rock climbing with a group of visually impaired people. And in fact, one of those people I remember specifically was a young man who was totally blind. And he scaled that wall like Spider-Man. And I felt so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, he was totally blind and I had some remaining vision, and man, he was rocking it. He was a rock climber. Now, he really enjoyed rock climbing, clearly, and I did not, but he could do it. And so maybe you think there's something physical that you can't do, but you really can. So don't use your sight loss as an excuse to slow you down or halt you from doing the things you want to do. Now, finally, let me say this. I'm not suggesting that you can't struggle, and I'm not suggesting that you can't be slow. I'm not suggesting that you have to do it overnight. I'm just telling you from a person who's lived this for a while that sight loss will not stop you from doing the things that you are set on doing, whatever that may be. So my question for you today is this. It's kind of a two-parter. First of all, have you ever used sight loss as an excuse, even early on? Have you ever used it as an excuse? And what is something that you really want to do that you feel like sight loss may be slowing you down in doing? I would love to hear about it, and I know others would as well. So let me know in the comments below. Hey, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, well, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it out with somebody that you know. And And if you're new around here, well, my name is Derek and I help people just like you to discover life after sight loss. Here on the channel, we do life advice, product reviews, and hard talks just like this one. So consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you don't miss another single video. And finally, guys, remember that sight loss isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Derek, and I'll see you in the next one.